Hey guys, welcome back to the show. So today is, I know it's an earlier live. We are accommodating for Tim, who's in the UK right now on UK time. It's 9 p.m. for him, 3 p.m. for me, 4 for Aaron. So we're trying to cater to everybody here. And if you're here right now, thank you for joining us. We've had a lot of trouble promoting this episode on social media for health restriction guidelines and all that stuff, and just the censorship right now. Ever since, RFK has come in to the picture and started, the Make America Healthy Again movement, it seemed like they've buckled down on any health related social media. So, interestingly enough, I did some research this morning and found out that Facebook has a whole health restriction. What did I call it, Aaron? Health advertising restrictions,
Mm.
and they say specifically it is vital that advertisers study the nuances of platform-specific health marketing policies. Failure to adhere to these policies can result in ad disapproval or even account suspension. But there's pages and pages and pages of these nuances, and there's so many subtleties. So it's like they can get you, they got you. They have you by the neck, and there's nothing you could do. So here we are, anyway, going against all odds, and we're happy to have Tim Sanders back with us. So many of you guys may know Tim from the earlier years. He is. I don't know if you're the founder of OMNIA, but you're affiliated with the OMNIA Radiation Balancer, which is a product that we use on all of our devices. And we'll let Tim explain what that is. But that's not what today's episode is necessarily about. We're going to get into, what's happening with America's health and the global health movement right now, because there's some big movements occurring and some major changes that are honestly, I think, bringing in the highest timeline. And it's great news for a lot of people. And, we're happy that we're just going to talk about, the warfare. Also, we're going to move into frequency warfare, and it's not just the health and diet, but there's a whole other aspect to this that literally deals with electromagnetic frequencies and how they're being weaponized against us. So we have a lot to get through today, but welcome to the show, Tim.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you again. And yeah, keen to get into it. And first of all, thanks a lot for all your support over the years, because it means a lot. It can be difficult being in this space where you're telling a story to a lot of people, and you get, like you've mentioned before, blocked by the key channels that you want to try and use to get to people, and they've got all these rules and regulations that they can get you with one of them. There'll be one in that long list that Facebook's just published that will just say, well, no, sorry, you're off the list, or you're censored or whatever. So really means a lot to have your support. And yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you posted a video that I actually titled this video, great news about our health, fantastic news about our health. And, you kind of like laid it out on Instagram about what you see happening by RFK coming into the picture. And maybe you can just kind of recreate that video or what you said in that video here for our audience, because you really painted a beautiful picture and understanding of what is happening, what's taking place.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm personally more excited about RFK being there than maybe Trump, who's got a hell of a job to do to try and reverse some of these wars that are have popped up in the last 4 years. But no, I mean, RFK coming in, he has a track record of kicking the ass of some of these big corporations that have just had that they've been running roughshod, right, for the last, how many decades. Whether it be through injectables, pharmaceuticals, you name it. They've got the media machine behind them. They've got, the legal system behind them. No politician's ever going to take them on because there are, we're living in a corporatocracy, as you well know. So he's got a track record of taking on these big corporations and standing up for the rejection of the intoxication of the human race, which I think is incredibly great news. He also, my area of expertise, if you call it that, is the reason why electromagnetic field radiation harms the body. And to get into that, you have to understand that the body is electric. Many people know that, but whether they know that every single thing, every single cell in the body comprises of electric current in motion, and electric current is the same thing as light. We can get into that a bit later on, but understanding that, and understanding that your light body is what gets harmed and taken out of balance, out of its electrical balance by exposure to EMFs. There is a massive amount of science out there showing that rats develop all sorts of things, from DNA strand breaks to cancers to infertility, um, serious stuff, not just like, oh, I got a little bit of heart arrhythmia or something like that. It's like all of these things have been recorded in rats. And of course, RFK has seen all of that. And he's heavily involved in a group called the Children's Health Defense, I think. And on behalf of them, he took the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, I think. He took him to court in, I think, 2021, and he won. But as usual, not an awful lot has happened since then, right? Because of the power of these big companies, whether it be your Googles, your Apples, your Vodafones, your AT&T or whatever. They're making so much money, and they're holding on to, this really, really flaky truth that has been established in our science textbooks, which is non-ionizing radiation is harmless. But yet there's all these, 6,000 peer-reviewed studies saying, oh no, it ain't. And RFK is one of those people who's on the side of truth, it seems to me, as a relative outsider. And that's exciting because, now he's got the support of the president. He's not just a lone wolf with a children's charity taking on these big, institutions which no one voted for, but are, inherently compromised. He's, on our side, and hopefully, he's the way he's talking about the trails in the sky and the things that are being injected and so on, and also, 5G and electromagnetic field radiation, which I know is harmful to the body. And in fact, you can just do a simple muscle test to show that your body does not like EMF. And I'll show you a video a bit later on, which shows you how you can test yourself and your own sensitivity to EMF. And also it proves how our technology works to make your body strong and balanced electrically when you're using your wireless devices.
Right. Yeah, and he's also talking about removing the fluoride from the water, which has now been statistically proven to be a neurotoxin that reduces the IQ of an individual. Even it reduces the IQ of the fetus as well. Like even the pregnant mother is reducing the IQ of her offspring when she's drinking water. But and it's being recognized as a neurotoxin that it is. And apparently on January 20th or whenever Trump gets inaugurated, that's their first line of action. The
Right.
first, I mean, one of them on that day, they're already talking about like, all right, let's remove the fluoride from the water, and then the red 40 and the other dyes in our food are being recognized as poisons. I mean, these things go a long way. If we can start cleaning up the food supply, then, that's half the battle, right? But then the other half is what we're going to get into later, the frequency warfare. But you already said it, the chemtrails and the vaccines. Like, if anything, he's bringing awareness surrounding that, and then, banning pesticides in agriculture, and it's just crazy. It's like all the stuff.
GMO.
Yeah, GMO, all the
I don't
stuff
know if
we.
I don't know if you
Go
have the
ahead.
same thing over on your side of the pond, but there's been quite a lot of, doctors and scientists coming forward saying we can't have this vaccine denier, give this
Yeah.
vaccine denier a voice and all this sort of stuff. And they do the usual thing where they cut out all of these, like look at these measles statistics and look at this polio statistics and everything else. Um, but no one entertains the idea. And this is the world is kind of split into two camps at the moment. I think you'll agree, but it's the camp that basically has bought all of the lies and is holding on to them and
Hmm.
just and they tend to actually be a lot of very intelligent people, right? Who are well educated and have gone all the way into studying everything in depth, and they buy up what they're told on a regular basis. But there's one thing that they don't bargain for, which is the notion that things like measles or polio might have been caused by the same people administering the cure. That's the one thing that they miss out, is that like they don't think anyone could be that evil, or they don't think that kind of evil exists on this plane, in this on this planet. They can't fathom that because it's traumatizing for them or whatever, or maybe they've got that history of trauma or whatever. But ultimately, this is something that the three of us and most of your audience is very aware of. That the malfeasance and the malpractice goes so deep and gets so nasty. So over on our side, we've got all of these well-trained doctors coming up saying, "Look at these polio charts, look at these measles charts," but it's like it's very difficult to get the message across to them because they see RFK Jr. as a threat, vaccine wise. They think there's going to be all these polio and measles outbreaks and so on. But they're missing something, a vital piece of the jigsaw in terms of how our health is affected, because
Mhm.
there are architects of our demise out there, right? We kind of know who they are, right? In terms of like galactic beings and so on. But it's too much of a jump for a lot of educated people to get into that whole thing. It's too easy for them to dismiss it as conspiracy theory or, sort of spiritual kind of, whatever you claptrap
Right.
or whatever,
Right.
or BS or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
he's going to get a bit of resistance, but I think he's just, it's the first time someone like him has got some serious backup, right? And we've had so many lone voices and the system has shut him down. And the exciting thing is that now he is the system, right? And so we got 4 years to make a big impact.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you're essentially dismantling a system that's financially dependent on sick people. So that they're
Yeah.
gonna, they're gonna try to keep us sick while we're trying to get healthy. I mean, it's a whole other layer to this war, right? And
And
it's
all of
just,
the
go ahead.
systems are crumbling, not just,
All of
not
them.
just this health
Mhm.
thing, but you can see it. You can see that the financial systems are crumbling. The legal systems are being challenged over here. Lots of people are getting into common law, for example, and understanding, hold on, things like mortgages are actually unlawful and completely, corrupt and fraudulent. There's so much awakening going on. It's almost like if you were fast asleep until this point, it's like you got too much to catch up on. It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is overwhelming. It's like I mean, overnight, we've been like kind of eased into this over the last decade, right? And the people that haven't been paying attention, it's like, whoa, what's going on? And there's going to be resistance because nobody wants to believe that all this stuff is true or that people could be that evil.
Mhm.
And it's still an amazing time, I think, and I think there is a bright future. And I don't know, Aaron, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, can agree more with everything said. We're in a time now, though, of all truths are coming to light. Everything hidden is coming to light, and all darkness is coming to the surface to be seen and transmuted, in my opinion. So, what's happening now with the whole Trump administration now getting back in again RFK and all this is just a manifestation of the times we're moving into now. And at the same time, we're being, free will is kind of like you can't infringe on that as well. So we have to be kind of brought up to speed, like you said, and become aware of the whole system that we've been in the whole time that we just weren't aware of before. And now we can make a choice from that place that's actually informed rather than being just unconsciously manipulated like we've been for so long. And a lot of people are very resistant to these changes because they're not quite awake yet to the reality of what they're actually, not just the reality of the systems that they're in, but the reality of how the universe even works, or the true nature of reality, that they're not their body, that they are an actual something much greater. All of
Yeah.
these things, so
So
it's all coming to the forefront right now.
yeah, and you bring up a good point, how the universe works. And maybe Tim, you can tell us how the universe works.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us,
Big
Tim.
tourist field. All
Yeah.
right. That's it.
Yeah.
Um, Can. I've learned this off the inventor of my product, and it's really exciting. And just before I say that, there's a point I wanted to make, which is that the people who are giving the false narratives at the moment, just what Aaron was saying there, the people who are kind of the architects of our demise, they've got no option at the moment than to double down on the lies and the deception and everything else. And as they double, treble, quadruple down, more and more people are waking up. So we're in this kind of really crazy, um, you know, expanding or accelerating timeline where
Yeah.
the truth is popping up like, popcorn or whatever. So it's all going a bit crazy. But yeah, I mean, the universe, as I understand it, as I've understood it through, sort of looking at things through the eyes of the inventor of my product, who's written about 40 papers about the truth about the atom, about magnetism, about gravity, about everything, is that the atom, just like Walter Russell said, is a torus field of light. So just as Tesla said, everything is the light, every atom is a torus field of light. So for anyone who doesn't know what a torus field is, it's a donut. And it's like, a donut with a hole in the middle. And in the hole in the middle of the donut of light is a magnetic still point. And that magnetic point holds the donut in place. And what happens with the donut is the light compresses itself. It borrows the energy from the magnetic point to compress itself into a torus field. And then it expands out into what some people call the ether, but I'm going to call space. So you got space, cold space, being compressed into hot matter, an atom, in every atom around us. And that's happening in my body. That's happening in this water bottle. It's happening in the water, inside the water bottle. It's happening in all material life, is that atoms are compressing to form matter and then expanding or radiating out into the ether in rapid succession. And the alternation between the compression and the expansion is frequency. So a lot of people talk about, oh, I'm gonna, these frequencies, this frequency, that frequency, whatever. But frequency is just a number, right? And it's measuring a phenomenon. And the phenomenon that it's measuring is that alternating sequence between the compression and the expansion. And the energy for the compression to happen comes from that magnetic still point at the center of the light ring. Okay, so that magnetic still point is magnetic. It has zero electrical potential. It is the 0 point, right? So everyone talks about 0 point energy. Well, I'm here to tell you that the 0 point exists inside every single one of our cells, every single one of our atoms. We are 0 point energy, effectively. Our cells are energy that emanates from that 0 point field. And that 0 point field is a still magnetic field, which is effectively space. And what happens in our bodies is that we dial into that magnetic field. Let's say, for example, my hand is here. All of the still magnetic light is outside my hand. All of that space is outside my hand. And my cells are basically bringing in energy from that 0 point of the magnetic light around my hand to make my hand in real time, And so for every movement in my body is electric current in motion running around the billions of light rings, torus fields of light that are in my body. And so once we understand that everything is the light, and once we understand that, we're in a holographic universe where everything's flicking on and off in rapid succession, giving the illusion of solidity of matter. Once we understand that the compression phase of each atom needs to be in equilibrium with the radiation phase, then we have healthy cells, healthy bodies, healthy lives. When that balance gets compromised, we become sick. So the body and the universe is first and foremost electric. And secondly, in our bodies anyway, according to our science textbooks, it's biochemical. So you got the whole of the pharmaceutical industry treating us on a biochemical level, whereas actually, first and foremost, the most important thing in the body is electrical balance. And that's why it's so important to harmonize all the electromagnetic field radiation that you're touching through your laptops, phones, any smart device. So the atom is a torus field of light. The HeartMath Institute has measured a torus field of electrical energy, one very strong one going to about 3 feet, and then another one to about 12 feet. And then even NASA, you know, I know that NASA doesn't exactly tell the truth all the time, but it can show you detailed photos. I think they're photos, not kind of illustrations or whatever, of huge galaxies, which basically show Walter Russell's diagrams in space, the exact copy of Walter Russell's diagrams in space, where two magnetic points sit at the end, and then light rings come down those magnetic points and compress to form a big ball of light in the middle. So there are beautiful beautiful pictures of that NASA share,
Yeah.
which show what happens. So it's as above, so below, and the difference between everything is frequency, right? So the frequency in my body is going so fast that that you know, I appear to be solid and material and, you know, everything else, whereas the alternation between the compression and the radiation from a galaxy point of view takes millions of years for that compression, and then another million years to expand. So it's as above, so below. And the things that are down here in this third dimension are moving very, very fast. The things that are, you know, up above are moving very slowly. So, but everything's conforming to the same pattern.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
Not too many people can explain the universe on the spot. So good job.
To that detail too.
I was
Yeah.
like half joking about it. And then here you are like completely breaking it down to the atom.
right.
But
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. And I mean, that's why the CIA has declassified documents that talk about walking through walls and teleporting your physical body. Because if you can, it really comes down to the mind and the belief system and what's possible and what you're capable of. And if you understand what you just explained, you apply it to your body, to your auric field, to your essence, you can effectively convince yourself that you're invisible, that you can walk through that wall and teleport your body and remote view and all these abilities that aren't supposed to be possible, right? So
There was a guy about 40 years ago who used to stick a sword through his body. I
I,
think
re-
you,
I
I think this
remember
is,
that guy. Yeah, holy
yeah.
cow.
And yeah, once you've understood that your body is basically, like you said earlier on, we are not our bodies, right? We are actually a soul perceiving everything through a body that belongs to the hologram, right? So
Right.
within the hologram, there's only one thing going on, like lots of atoms compressing and expanding. But we are souls in this avatar that belongs to the hologram, coming in and perceiving everything that we experience using this body, right? So once you've gone into that situation, and I haven't, I would still definitely feel some pain if I put a sword through my stomach. But ultimately, that person, I think his name is Mirandar or something like that. Anyway, you know, he would put a sword through his body, and he would have actually mastered the notion that the sword was holographic, and so was his body. And so
Yeah.
the attachment to the pain and everything else that we might, you know, have been taught in terms of our perception is something that he has released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I forgot all about that guy too, by the way. I remember watching that when I was young as a kid, being like completely mind blown that this guy was putting a sword through his body. Um,
Because
so
everything is just energy, and
yeah,
consciousness is actually at the top of
Yeah.
the control of that energy ultimately. So if you can properly tap in, and get in a state where you are now able to, you know, more and more control the energy of your own body or what's going on around you, that's what, you know, yogis have done and been doing this, and masters have been doing this for thousands of years, right? And they're able to like press their hand into a rock and make a handprint, a solid rock, you know, and things like that, jump like super long distances and
I, it,
disappear, bilocate, teleport, like Tyler said, do all these things that aren't supposed to be possible. But really, there's no such thing as impossible. It's just a matter of your own beliefs and what you've tapped into.
Well, it's
it's
very
really
compelling, isn't it? Seeing a rock and thinking, well, that rock's hard. You know, you punch the rock, you know, it's pretty compelling, and it's, you know, it informs our everyday experience. But getting underneath what a rock is, or anything that's solid, getting underneath what that is and understanding that it's a bunch of light rings that are, you know, vibrating super fast, and then understanding that whole kind of realm where everything is energy, frequency, vibration. Yeah, once you become a master, then, you know, you can manipulate that and you can work with it on levels that are going to freak out everyone who is, you know, hypnotized by their own physical experience.
I think I'd rather start with the rock than the sword.
No.
Yeah, me too.
I'll put my hand in the rock. I'm not going
I'll
to try
test
to
that out first. Right.
Yeah, I'd say baby steps on this. No one's going to get to
Right.
Jedi level straight away.
I was wrong. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Because I don't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about the reality of the situation and this frequency warfare. I mean, we're being bombarded, and
Yeah.
it is very tough to exist with these frequencies that are literally boiling our blood. And
Right.
you don't realize how bad it is until you travel. Like I went down to Belize, you know, and South America, or
Yeah.
wherever,
Central
Punta Gorda.
America.
Yeah,
Belize.
Central America, Punta
Yeah.
Gorda, which is south of Belize, just Central America. But it was quiet. There was no towers, and I could, you know, hear my heartbeat when I'm trying to sleep. And I realized I can't do that at home. There's such, even when I unplug my Wi-Fi router, there's still a frequency that is just constantly being emitted all the time. So that has to have a detrimental effect on our body at some point. And I want to kick off this conversation by our cell phones and what it means, what happens to your body whenever you carry a cell phone in your pocket. And because it is not good. And we're talking about testicular cancer, infertility. And I know you can explain this because you've done the research, and maybe you can enlighten our audience on what's occurring there.
Sure. So, as we said earlier on, everything in the body is electric. Now, I'm going to show you actually a picture, just so you know that I'm not joking. This is a picture. Can we see it? Yes, we can.
There it is.
Right. So this is a picture, like you can see the torus fields, right? With the empty space in the middle, the black hole in the middle. These are blood cells, right? So our blood cells are torus fields of light. And remember, I said that light is electric current. You know, people kid themselves that electric current just comes from the end of a cable like this. But really, all that's happening in a cable is that light and heat are being passed down a copper wire. That's all it is, right? So, you know, just to dispel that myth, electric current makes up everything, right? Everything is the light. Light is electric current. So there's two things at play here, right? First of all, the body electric, right? We've mentioned how on a cellular level, but also, you know, we know that our heart is a big electrical pump. We know our brain waves are electrical fields, alpha, beta, gamma, etc. That's all been measured in hertz. Remember what I said, hertz is just a frequency. It's measuring something that's compressing and expanding in electrical terms. And then there's other people called Bruce Taino, I think his name is, who's measured all of the frequencies, the different frequencies of the different organs in the body. So it's beyond any dispute that everything is electric in the body. So what is happening is, you know, I mentioned that there's a magnetic point and then there's an electric field that basically borrows the energy from the magnetic point to make itself into an electromagnetic field. We would call it a magneto-electric field because the magnetic comes first and the electric comes second, okay? And that magnetic point is the conscious point. It's like the mind point, the 0 point, the connected 0 point, which is effectively the source of all material events in the universe. And EMF, electromagnetic field radiation, is a physical, albeit invisible, electrical field, right? That comes at us and hits our bodies. So if you imagine that all our cells, these are perfectly healthy cells, right? Within these cells, there is that magnetic point holding the light ring in place. But that magnetic point is listening to all of the things electrically that you're exposed to, right? So it will be listening to sunshine, and sunshine charges the body up, right, with electric current, because that sunshine field is basically perfectly balanced. It's a natural field, God-given, which is perfectly balanced, where the light ring is in perfect equilibrium with the magnetic point, okay? But in EMF or wireless radiation, what happens is that magnetic point and that light ring are out of balance. So basically, it becomes a distorted field. I've actually got a video that would be a good time to talk about this. Shall I just jump straight into the video?
Yeah, so when you share your screen, make sure you click share audio as well. It'll be
Ah,
you'll see the option on there
yeah.
somewhere.
Okay. Well, I'll have to try and talk while I show the video. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I'm screen sharing, it seems. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so this is a muscle test. I'm going to just show you what happens in a muscle test. You knit your fingers behind in a kind of ball behind your back, and then I'll push down into my friend's, cup that she's made behind her back and see how strong she is. And she bounces off because she's holding me. She's resisting my pressure. Then we put a phone in her pocket and we do the same test. So this is without the Omnia radiation balancer. All of her electrical currents in her body have been scrambled. She goes weak, right? All of the electrical balance has just been jeopardized. So just do it one more time and show that she just can't hold me, right? So then we put our sticker on the phone, and that has got balancing qualities in that I'll come back to and explain a bit later. We do the same test with the sticker on the phone, and she's super strong. She's not going anywhere. So that's what happens. Now let's get into why that happens. So this is, like I mentioned before, we've got the wrong version of the atom. It's not an electron, proton, neutron, and nucleus. In fact, the nucleus, which is supposed to be the matter, is the opposite. There's a black hole at the center of the atom. So you got that 0 point, magnetic point, holding the light ring, the electric current, in place in every atom. And so with EMF, there's an imbalance between the magnetic 0 point and the electric light ring. So if we're going to draw, and this happens in every toxin, whether it be fluoride, whether it be everything, it's like a fast expanding wave field. So if we're going to draw this, we've got the magnetic point, number 2 in the middle, and then the light ring is like the orange ring. So just keep an eye on those two things. And effectively, the magnetic point drags that light ring into an imbalanced shape, right? So it's an agitated wave field, a distorted wave field, where there's distortion between the 0 point, the magnetic, and the electric. And our bodies pick this up, as I show in my blood tests, where basically all my blood starts to coagulate and form rouleau. And water also picks it up. This is a water molecule that's been exposed to 5G. So with EMF, we've got imbalance between the magnetic and the electric. Okay, and what we want to do is basically turn that into a balanced centered field, where that number 2 there is absolutely at the center of the geometric light ring. Okay, once we have that, we have resonance between our light rings, our body here, and that light ring. So we have a harmonic resonance. So that's what we want to try and achieve, moving that magnetic point from the center, from it jagging around all over the place, back into the center of the field, because not all radiation is bad. Okay. So, we are radiating too. Our bodies are radiating, right? The sun radiates and it's the giver of all life, for example. So that's the effect that we're trying to achieve here. And when we expose water to radiation that's been balanced by OMNIA, and blood that's been, and we expose blood to radiation fields that have been balanced by our products, then the blood returns back to normal. Then water develops nice crystals, and that's good news for the body.
Can
So,
you rewind to the part with where it shows the 3 different blood samples?
Sure.
Because I think that's probably my favorite slide.
I forgot where it is. Let's try and find it. Yeah.
Maybe right before, right there it is. Okay. So explain this like I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure. So what we're seeing here in what we're seeing here, black is white and white is black. So it's a negative portrayal of blood cells. Remember, we showed blood cells when you take a picture inside the body, they look like this. So the opposite of that is here, where the white bit in the middle is actually the black hole. And then the dark piece of the torus field, the circle, is the light, okay?
Yeah.
So this is effectively live blood analysis, and I turned everything off overnight, had no exposure to EMF, and took a sample at 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning. And the whole sample looked like that, like nice blood cells, all in their own space, all bobbing against each other and, you know, pushing each other away and so on. So there's a whole video of like 3 minutes of that where you see all the sample looks good. And then I went into a room and I held a cell phone in my hand and I watched a video for 20 minutes. And I came back, took another sample, and the whole sample started to stick together, because basically the electrical balance of the blood cells, you know, the very blood cells in our body start to, the electrical balance is compromised. And therefore they all start to form chains. And that isn't necessarily a disease, but it represents stress, electromagnetic stress in the body. Now, it's amazing that after only 20 minutes of holding a phone, your blood can go like this, when we've been holding phones for 20 years, and a lot of people won't have even felt it because they're not quite in tune with their bodies, and they don't, you know, they're not noticing it, right? Because they just, I mean, a lot of it is just not being conscious enough to notice it. You know, it's just like our fingernails are growing right now. Do we notice that? Well, no, not really. You know, some people have got cancers in their bodies. They don't notice it for years. So we're not always conscious of what's happening in our bodies, but this is something that happened to me. And then, you know, I put the sticker on the phone, went into the next room while my blood was still looking like the middle column here. And I put the sticker on, watched another 20 minutes holding a cell phone in my hand, and then came back, took a sample. And I'll be honest with you, I was expecting the sample not to really change that much, but it went mostly back to its normal shape. So the blood actually said, oh, thank you for doing that. You know, I can now go back to my normal shape, which is effectively balanced blood in its own space. Blood's very simple. It should be a torus field in its own space. It's that simple. That's, you know, that, and that is healthy blood. So
now show
that's
us
one of the tests that we did.
Show us the water before and after too. You had the water molecule.
Yeah, let me find that for you.
Right.
So,
there.
yeah. So you may or may not know that water is H12O6, not H2O. That's another paper that was written by the scientist who invented my product, who is genuinely a maverick genius. But basically, H12O6 is reflected perfectly in a snowflake, right? So if you were to draw 6 spokes like this, you know, so like across with a, you know, as a vertical, you'd have 6 endpoints, right? And on the end of all of those 6 endpoints is the O, right? And on each side of the O, there's a triangle of H. So that actually makes a structure which looks exactly like a snowflake. So I'm going to really struggle to draw that out for people, but it's on our website if you want to have a look at it. So water in its perfect form should look like that crystalline hexagonal structure, which Dr. Emoto talks about a lot. Okay, so he freezes water and then takes pictures of it. And when that structure is destroyed, you can basically say that that's water that's not going to do your body any good, right? So that's water that isn't in its optimum structure. So that's without the OMNIA sticker. You know, what happened was basically I got a glass of water and then I put a phone on the top and played a video on the phone for 7 minutes. I then froze the water, and then there's a technique that they can do to take a picture of the structure of that water. And you can see there's not really any structure there. It's kind of broken up. It's kind of distorted. It's not really very, well, this is a visual thing, right? So it's one of those things where I can't apply any science to it other than just look at it and feel for yourself what that's, you know, what you feel that's in terms of whether that's a good structure for you or not. But basically, we then put the OMNIA sticker on and did the same test. Just, had a video playing against the water. And then we froze the water, and these crystals emerged. Now, the bottom one isn't quite so great, but you can see the sort of hexagonal structure in the bottom one and in the top one. You can see those sort of hexagonal sides. And then there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spokes, which are the oxygen surrounded by the hydrogen. So that is effectively water listening to the 5G radiation field that's been balanced and centered, and the magnetic point stuck back to the middle, right? It's listening to that new field, it's picking up its vibration, and it's organizing itself into crystals, which basically means the water's happy. The water is in good shape. And that's good news for our body, because our bodies are 70% water. And there are parts of our body that are way more than 70% water, our blood. I've just shown you the pictures on the blood earlier on. There are, the brain is full of water. And, a lot of people are putting headphones in straight into direct contact with not only the electrical currents in their brain, alpha, beta, gamma, remember we've measured that, but all of the moisture in the brain as well. So we know that the water content, the areas that are rich in water content in the body are the most vulnerable. And that includes, for men, for example, the testicles, right? Because they're full of fluid, right? And that's pretty obvious. And the gut as well. And then for women, it can be the breasts. So we talk to police women, right, who keep their radio next to their breasts all day. And of course, because it's very close to their breast and it's there all day. So the 3 risk factors of EMF are proximity, how close it is to your skin. We're touching these things all the time. If you put your earbuds in your brain, that's very, very high proximity. The length of time you expose yourself. So most people are on their phones 6-7 hours a day, but this policewoman, obviously most of the day, 8 or 9 hours a day, with the thing in the same place. And then the third thing that affects us is the strength of the signal, whether it's 2G, 3G, 5G, right? And as we all know, those signal strengths are going up and up and up as more devices get connected, and, speeds of networks increase as well. So all of those 3 factors, and this woman had a lump, we talked to this policewoman, she said, I've got a lump here, is it because of my radio? And I said, yes. But just my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but knowing what I do, yes, because the water content there is reacting, and you're holding it there for a prolonged amount of time, and eventually the body just goes, I can't do this anymore, right?
Right. So can you stop sharing the screen for a second?
Yes.
I want to talk about something that your phone even tells you. So if you have an iPhone and you go to settings, general, and I'll just go back so I can tell everybody. Go to settings, general, go all the way down to the bottom and click legal and regulatory. And then you click RF exposure, and it tells you the results of the test and how you should be using your phone. And it literally tells you to keep it away from your body. And at least it says 5 millimeter separation, which is about the length of the width of a pencil. But so even against your body, and I'm just going to read this just because it's interesting. iPhone has been tested and meets applicable limits for radio frequency RF exposure. Specific absorption rate refers to the rate at which the body absorbs RF energy. The SAR limit is 1.6 watts per kilogram, and countries that set the limit averaged over 1 gram of tissue, 2.0 watts per kilogram, and countries that set the limit averaged over 10 grams of tissue. So it's just giving you different countries' regulations. During testing, iPhone radios are set to their highest transmission levels and placed in positions that stimulate use against the head with no separation, and when worn are carried against the torso of the body within 5 millimeter separation. To reduce the exposure to RF energy, use a hands-free option such as built-in speakerphone headphones or other similar accessories. Cases with metal parts may change the RF performance of the device, including compliance with the RF exposure guidelines, and that matter has not been tested or certified. So a metal case can actually affect it. But it says, although this device has been tested to determine SAR in each band of operation, not all bands are available in areas, depending on your server, services, providers, wireless, roaming networks. So the only reason I'm saying that is because they tell you literally right here that if you keep the phone against your body, it could have negative effects right against your body. So it's in their own legalities, right? And I think that's important because testicular cancer is a real thing from men carrying and infertility for carrying their phones in their pockets and breast cancer, like you said. And in one case, in one study that I watched, the woman had a lump the exact size and shape of the lithium battery in her phone that would there where she carried it in the exact spot. So it's like memory, right? It just created a tumor, the exact shape of the battery. So I don't know if people really consider this that much, and you can probably add on to this, but it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it crazy that we live in a, I mean, we're all very attached to our devices, right? We get so much information from them. They've become such an indispensable part of our lives. Um, but they don't work unless you touch them. And so, any phone company saying, please keep your phone 5 millimeters away from your body at all times. Well, they're not going to work.
How you
You know,
gonna hold it and use
Right,
it?
turn them on, you need to touch them, right?
Right.
It's just it's the world we live in at the moment is absolutely insane. I think you'll agree, where they can somehow get away with that. And of course, going back to RFK, he knows this. He knows all of this, and he knows how much they're pulling the wool over our eyes, as they say over here. They're fooling us, but there's so much money at stake. And I'll tell you one other thing, which will not surprise you, which is the way that they test your phone for safety. And the reason why that statement exists is basically to ensure your safety. They do one test on the phone, right? And one only. And it's not on any human being. Basically, they get a plastic model of a human being with fake skin, plastic skin, and they fill it with a basically fake blood, a composite of salts and sugars that's meant to replicate blood, right? So you can see videos of this. They basically got this sort of a yellow plastic model of a human with fake skin, and they hold. Let's imagine that's the fake skin. They hold the phone. They hold the phone next to the fake skin, right? And then what they do is they drop a sensor in the fake blood, and they measure whether any heat went through the fake skin and into the fake blood. And if there's not a certain amount of heat, then they pass it as safe. So what happened was about 5 years ago, the phones started getting so sophisticated with all the new apps, and all the video and all of the amount of, radio frequency radiation coming into the phones. They started getting super hot. So every single phone started failing the test, right? Actually, producing too much heat within the fake blood. So what they did was they moved the phone away from the fake skin by 5 millimeters. And they realized that just by that gap, all of the heat disperses within the 5 millimeters. And they started getting the readings that they needed to meet the SAR limit, which is the specific absorption rate, which is all to do with the rate of heat that's absorbed within the fake blood. Well, it's meant the fake blood that's meant to be like our blood, right? But I've just shown you what happens to our blood, and they could be doing that test, but instead they're doing a test on a fake plastic body with fake blood, right? And basically, because they started failing on the test, they moved the phone 5 millimeters away, and then they went and changed everyone's terms and conditions to say, now you, for your own safety, must hold your phone 5 millimeters away from your body at all times. And
Yeah.
you know this, I know this. I'd say quite a lot of people know what you just told me about, the terms and conditions, but who's doing anything about it?
right.
Because that's what we stand for at Omnia, right? Is we have something that's really going to help you. Not only should you turn everything off at night, I hope everyone does that, turn everything off at night, because that's when your body is electrically recharging and your immune system and your melatonin is coming out, and all of these amazing things are happening at night, which you don't want any electrical interference to. So, turn everything off at night, but during the day we're using our devices, right? And you just saw in that muscle test that the body goes super strong, when you've got our stuff on your phone. So that's a good thing, right? We want strong bodies.
Yeah.
But the phone industry could be doing muscle testing, could be doing heart rhythm testing. Your heart's rhythms get disrupted by holding a phone because there's that electrical interference. Remember, the heart is a big electrical pump, so the rhythms of the heart get disturbed. You could go on and on, all sorts of things. They could be doing all these tests on the human body, but instead they're testing on a plastic mannequin filled with fake blood. And that's what they're doing. And then
Right.
just fairly terms and conditions.
And I have the patch here on my phone. There's actually one on this microphone. I have two on my computer here. I mean, everything I have really, but this is going back a long time ago when we had you on. Before we ever even, were affiliated with you, you sent us some patches, and I just put them on all the devices, my Wi-Fi router and stuff, my phone and everything. Prior to that, I had, um, I would say chronic migraine headaches, and it was getting worse and worse. And I had tried everything, and it wasn't every day, but it was, I would say 4 to 5 times a week, and it was really getting bad, and I couldn't figure out why, and nobody else could either. They just throw medicine at you and stuff. I put these patches on, and it didn't even dawn on me until a few days later, like, I haven't had a headache in 3 days, and I was like, I wonder if it's from
Yeah.
those patches. And
Yeah.
and then I just kept paying attention after that, and another day, and my headaches stopped. And I mean that, like they stopped. And all I did was put these patches and harmonized all my devices. My migraines were being caused by nothing other than the electromagnetic frequencies, the radiation. And it had never even occurred to me, you know, you're trying every, Excedrin migraine, give me this, what, drink more water, but nothing was working.
Give me some biochemicals to
Yeah.
fix the biochemical. No, let's treat the source, which is the electric current. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's why I was like, yes, we will work with you, and, we've been promoting this product for years now. And, this whole episode isn't necessarily meant to be a sales pitch, but it's important. It's important because no one's going to stop using their phone. So what can we do what's the next best thing? Figure out something that's going to harmonize these frequencies. And I think that you have a special deal today. You're offering 18% off or something.
I do. Yep. So obviously, the discount code is truth. And that gets you 18% off at our store for until Sunday. So,
Until
and basically that helps you guys out as well because you've been great supporters of Omnia, and that means a lot because whenever we advertise, we can't get through to people. Not surprisingly, they're on their phones scrolling. They don't want to hear about, EMF, causing migraines or whatever. But look, it's wonderful to hear your testimony like that. We speak to loads of customers who are really struggling and they just can't believe it. It's like, what's in that sticker? Well, I can
well,
tell you, it's like it's a conscious, energetic field that which changes the consciousness of that EMF and basically changes it from a distorted field to a balanced field. And then your body, which is listening to all these fields all the time, picks that new field up and says, ah, I like that new field. It's basically resonating it's in harmonic resonance with that new field. So that's good news for your body, right? It's not going to solve every single thing because, these frequency wars are getting super complex, but it is important to understand that it's actually the consciousness of the field that's actually, it's harming us. And that it's not just ending with the EMF, because as you probably know, they're putting subliminal consciousness into everything these days, whether it be, rap music or yeah, any type of music, but
right.
also into YouTube videos. And I've heard I've heard they're doing it in a lot of those classic meditations that you get on YouTube and so on,
Yes.
slide it in underneath, say, oh great, I'm listening to 432 hertz and it's really, and I'm opening up my heart chakra, and then they slide in some distorted fields in there as well. So we are, like you said earlier, we are under attack, and it's up to everyone to find something that works for them. So I'm glad that's working for you, and that's all we want for people.
Right. Okay. So I'm a skeptic. I tune into this video and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Blasphemy, right? Now, how is a little sticker going to do anything? It
Mm,
looks completely insignificant, but we're talking about literally changing a belief system here on what we understand is possible, like we talked about earlier. So we all know sacred geometry. It's powerful and it's used in all the ancient structures and by the ancient civilizations all around the world for a reason, because it literally creates a frequency or a field and it's measurable.
mm,
So technically what's on this sticker is a, I guess you could say, a shape, a pattern that is specifically harmonizing the electromagnetic frequencies that we're being bombarded with. It's not blocking it, it's reharmonizing it, correct?
Yeah. So you have to imagine that it's like EMF is like an orchestra, right? That you can't hear, right? It's all around you making this sound, right? But you can't hear it. But your body can hear it. That's why you fail the muscle test. Your blood changes and all that sort of stuff. So your body is listening to this orchestra because all of the instruments are playing out of tune, right? So if you could hear it, you'd be like, oh my God, that's a horrible sound. And like I said, your body is hearing it. So what happens within that sticker is that there's a structure called a deca, basically. Deca is a dodecahedron, which the inventor has discovered through his meditations. He's a little bit like Nikola Tesla. He goes into deep meditation and asks questions to find the answers and then experiments with them to build solutions. So he's found this new structure, which is perfectly balanced, right? Which balance basically means that the magnetic point is always in the absolute geometric center of the torus field or the wave field, right? So what happens with Deca energy is that he can program it with his conscious intent, and then basically he charges the sticker up using that as a transport layer and gets it into in between the layers of paper, glue, and dye, which is all the sticker is. So it's really clever. You'll look at a sticker and just go, wait a minute, it's just a sticker. And that's what I did when I first saw it. I was just like, come on. But I knew how to muscle test. So I met him, the inventor, in South Africa at Michael Tellinger's event. He's one of Michael Tellinger's friends. And I said to him, look, can I take some of these stickers? And I had made a few friends at the festival. I just said, right, let's try this out. So I did a whole load of muscle tests with them. All of us were like, what the hell is in that sticker? And then he told us, and it's still to this day, it's like, this is both wonderful news and completely crazy, because it's wonderful news that there is a unit of energy in our atmosphere that we can actually work with and responds to our conscious intent. And we could actually build many more solutions with. And that's what he is doing presently. But at the moment, the only thing he succeeded with, well, he succeeded with a few things, but the main thing he succeeded with is imprinting his conscious intent through the Deca into a sticker that basically says, whenever you hear that orchestra playing those imbalanced tunes, tune it up so that the magnetic point is absolutely at the center. And then the body says, oh, great, I like that new field. So that's what's happening. It's very difficult because it's invisible. You can't see the Deca energy in the, even under a microscope, you can't see it in a sticker. And it was also the fact that the EMF is now balanced is also invisible. I wish I could have had some kind of contraption that said, hey, look, here's an imbalanced radiation field, and then here's a balanced one.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can do is use our tests on the body to show the benefits, and also hear customer experiences like yours, which are wonderful.
So somebody said, "Can we get these in Mexico? I need one of those." Where I am, they have put up tons of towers here in Mexico.
Right.
So did we ship to Mexico?
I do, but it's really tricky because the export laws to Mexico are a real nightmare, meaning that I send it to Mexico and they always charge me about $50. So
mm,
I always lose out. And that's really not fair on me. So what I would say is if you have any friends in the USA that could send you them from the USA to Mexico, that would be an awful lot cheaper. Um, but reach out to me. on our website, and I'll sort you out. We'll get them there somehow. But
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah,
here's what
we
we'll do
sent them
with
there
this.
before, but they take a long time. I can't control, you know,
You're
I
talking
can't
about
control the couriers.
you're talking about sending from the UK to Mexico is the problem. Okay, so here's what we'll do. However you say your name, Paper Roses, email us journeytotruth.online or journeytotruthpodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email, and if you want to put an order in, what we'll do is we'll just have Tim send us whatever you want, and then we can. In this particular case, we're not going to do this for everybody because it would be impossible. But in this particular case, we will then in turn send them to you once we
Yeah,
get them from Tim, and we can just be the middleman in this case.
awesome.
Um,
Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah, would
yeah.
love to, hear your feedback on those. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the headphones, the earbuds. Aaron, were you gonna say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so I never wear any of the wireless, the Bluetooth. I refuse. I don't actually like wearing headphones anyway. I have a big major problem, maybe past life trauma of anything on my face, even glasses, headphones. I can't do it. Um, But if I do wear headphones, I just use the old-fashioned auxiliary, port. But I think that is like these AirPods, the Apple AirPods. I think that's far worse than holding the phone. Now people walk around with it all day. When you're on the phone, at least it's a short amount of time, and then it's back down, right? So you've put these stickers on the AirPods, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't say that I'm the best tester of that either because I don't wear them, So
Right.
I'm going on the basis that it really helps with a phone and the muscle test works with a phone. And I have muscle tested with the micro as well. We call them micro because they're just smaller. They're a lot smaller to fit on headphones. But look, some people kind of have to wear headphones for a job or a living or whatever. Maybe you're in a call center. The sales guys are on the phone all day. They prefer to, put it in their ear. It's easier than holding it up there and whatever. If you have to wear wireless headphones and whatever, then yeah, you absolutely must get these micro on because when you hold an RF meter, radio frequency meter, so you can measure the amount of radiation coming out of a phone or Bluetooth headphones or wireless headphones, there's more EMF coming out of wireless headphones than there is out of a phone,
Right.
right? There's more.
Yeah.
It goes up so much higher, like almost double a
Hmm.
lot of the time. So that's not good news. Like I said before, there's loads of water in your brain, and your brain is full of electrical fields which get interfered with by these electromagnetic frequencies. So, or fields, I should say. Frequency is just the number, but yeah. So put the micro on. Possibly wear a pendant as well. We sell pendants for people who don't like to. Well, basically, it's an added level of protection. But you can see mine here. A pendant has a sticker in the back, and that basically just talks to your body's energy and keeps your body nice and harmonized. Let's say, for example, if I have a sticker on my phone, that means that there's a bubble of energy. Oh, sorry, it's too light, isn't it? There's a bubble of energy around my phone of about 2 meters. So anything within 2 meters is now harmonized. But if I leave my phone at home and go for a walk, without my phone, then I'll want my pendant on, especially if there's, stuff coming from the sky or from another 5G
Right.
tower.
So explain, will does it matter if you have a phone case on your phone blocking the sticker? Does it have to be on the outside?
Now, don't put it on the case, just put it on the phone. Always directly on the phone. What you want to do is create proximity, absolute proximity between the wireless device, whether it's a Wi-Fi router, a laptop, or whatever, and the sticker. So the sticker has to be in direct connection with the wireless device, and then it will override that imbalance. So it just has to be on there talking to it. And then it's a good idea to put a phone case on the top because then that protects the sticker because it is just made of paper and it is permanent, the sticker. And I noticed that you need some new ones because it's possible that the colors are fading off your ones. So I'll send you a couple of new ones. But yeah, protect the sticker and it will always be working.
Yeah, okay, great. So where else can we go with this? I know we've been going for about an hour now and it's late for you. And do you have more time to hang out with us or do you got to get
Sure.
going?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know what people's attention spans like, but yeah, I can.
Right.
I'm here
Uh,
as long
what
as you
is
need.
this? if we use anything wireless, we must use protection. Women owned a wireless auto. Oh yeah. So also the cars, like the electric cars. That's I've heard people are just being microwaved inside. So you gotta put like a sunroof sticker now for the cars.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take your RF meter into a car, then the readings are incredibly high because not only have you got a kind of Faraday cage with, let's say there's 4 passengers, every passenger's got a phone, right? And so that EMF is coming in and then being blocked inside it, but also the EV is causing electromagnetic field radiation as well. So again, cars are not something that I've done any tests on and said, yeah, we can be absolutely sure that that's working in that way, because a lot of EV owners come up to me and say, where should I put it? And I go, well, I don't own an EV, but I imagine that the best thing to do, you probably need at least two, and one should go on the dashboard, which is receiving a lot of wireless data, in the car, and the other one should go on the engine, or, as close to the kind of electrical generator in the car as possible. I did have one customer come back saying there is no engine, and I went, oh, but so I don't know an awful lot about EVs, but I know that there's a massive amount of RF, radio frequency radiation, inside them. So
Right.
really it's a little bit like trial and error, but you definitely need something in there. And pendants would be a good thing in an EV.
Was it you that took an RF meter to the charging station? Or I saw a video of somebody doing that to the EV charging stations, and it was just off the charts, right?
Yeah, I did. I think I pinched someone's video of that and
Oh,
did a
okay.
sort of splice with that. But yeah, yeah. I mean, it's they're crazy. That I mean, it is electric current. Our message is very clear, right? When man makes electric current in any form, but especially in wireless form, it carries an imbalance, right?
Right.
When nature makes beautiful electrical current, like the sun, tends to be in balance, right? So the sun's radiation is perfectly balanced. Man makes radiation and screws it up.
Right.
So we want to correct that imbalance and make it nice and balanced. Even if you stood with your hand on the TV all day, you'd become stressed. That's just the way it is, right? So we've got these phones in our pockets generating a huge amount of radio frequency radiation, and that
Right.
imbalance is just going to wear our batteries down.
And there's other things too that we have to be aware of. The blue light factor, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know if the patch even deals with that, but what the blue light does, if you're on your phone before bed, it tricks your body's serotonin levels, right? And it makes you think that it's morning. And so
Yeah.
your body is preparing for the day ahead when
Mhm.
actually you should be unwinding. And I don't know if you've done any research in that area.
Actually slightly different to that, as I
Okay.
understand it. It's
Okay.
melatonin.
Mel
So melatonin, yeah. And melatonin is secreted by your pineal gland, right? Or pineal
Mhm.
gland, however you say it. Um, and so what happens is this, right? If you fall asleep during the day, right, the pineal gland can see all the types of light in the room, right? So it sees that it's daylight and it doesn't secrete any melatonin. But if you sleep at night, the pineal gland says, right, there's no daylight. Tim's asleep. He's, now send out the melatonin, right? And the
Right.
melatonin is absolutely vital because it cleans up the blood-brain barrier, right? It's also the most powerful antioxidant in the body, the most powerful. So you don't want to, disturb that process. And what happens is if you left your Wi-Fi or your phone on, or some people sleep with their phone underneath their pillow, the pineal gland sees that light and gets confused. It's like, is it daytime? Is it nighttime? I can see light coming from some weird phone, gets confused. And there have been studies which show that it secretes less melatonin, or the process is disrupted, put it that way. So you don't want that to happen, because nighttime is the only time where you should be recharging your electrical battery with no exposure at all to anything,
Yeah.
to any EMFs.
So
Mhm.
what I meant was not serotonin. I had to look. Circadian rhythm is what I meant to say. I had to see or
Oh yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So the blue light, it
yeah.
tricks your circadian rhythm into thinking
Mhm.
it's morning,
Yeah.
essentially. Are we gonna say
affects your
something there?
sleep. It affects your sleep, and sleep is a very underrated thing in our society. People don't realize how important it is, and a lot of people are walking around sleep deprived all the time, and their health is suffering for it, right?
Yeah.
And melatonin, obviously, like you said, plays a huge role in that. And when you sleep, your body is basically cleansing itself and resetting and restoring itself. So if you're not sleeping enough or sleeping properly, you're basically never getting that restoration, and then you're constantly going throughout life not really ever fully recovering and getting that restoration.
Yeah.
So, and then I would say two of the most underrated things: sleep and enough sunlight as well, you know. And they try to demonize the sun and tell us, oh, it's bad for you, and it's actually the exact opposite. And like you said, it's you explained why it is good for you, because it's
Sunlight
kind of
charges
like,
your body up with energy.
right,
EMF basically charges it down, or whatever the opposite of that is, it wears it out. Wears the
right,
battery of the body out. Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
And Unity just said, "Love you, brave motherfuckers." Thank you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Um, love you too. So yeah, I agree. And sleep, Aaron, you're right. When I was in construction, when I worked 40 hours a week, I was sleep deprived because I would need caffeine to get me through the day because I was very unhealthy back then. And the caffeine would keep me up all night. But then I would like by the time I fall asleep, I was waking up for work and I was in this cycle where I was not sleeping ever and I was getting sick all the time. And
Hmm.
I've noticed since I've quit that lifestyle and actually been sleeping properly, I barely get sick anymore, like
Yeah.
barely. And when I
Hmm.
do, it doesn't last as long. But I mean, I'm telling you, I would get sick so much, and it never even occurred to me back then, because I'm not sleeping. It just starts a ripple effect, right? This whole domino
Yeah.
effect.
You don't even connect it to that. You don't even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that I
There's one
couldn't
other
agree
thing
more.
that I've done recently, which is started drinking filtered water.
Mm.
Sorry, distilled water. Where you basically turn it into steam and then cool it, and it basically turns into like perfect water, and then you cool it and it drops out as, and it tastes absolutely incredible. Like super clean, super, defluoridated, or whatever the word is, and all those good things. But as soon as you start taking it, you realize that it's going to come in and just flush out all sorts of crap from
Yeah.
the last, I thought I was super healthy. And then suddenly you start drinking, distilled water. And then, your body goes, okay, you putting the right stuff in, we're going to get rid of all this stuff. And that can be like, quite a shock to the system.
So
Right.
actually,
And
go
spring
ahead.
water, a good quality spring water. We actually drive an hour to go to a spring because it's a really good quality spring, and that as well, because then that has all the minerals in it as well.
Yeah,
Whereas distilled doesn't, but as long as you're getting those minerals from your food and other sources, then you'll be all
right.
right too.
And
Got to be wary of the chemtrails as well, though, because unfortunately they are
Um,
popping up into our clouds every
yeah,
day now.
that's a good point though.
Yeah.
I didn't
yeah,
think about that.
there are some articles or people claiming like certain springs now have been contaminated because of that.
Mhm.
Not all of them, but um, I do know just because I was there in South Dakota, the Black Hills Springs, they claim the Native Americans on the land claim it's like one of the healthiest springs left and in the country essentially. But I don't know if that's true. It's definitely healthy, and they're very proud of their spring water up there in the Black Hills, and which is a
It's
very
another
safe.
area where we've been blocked from gaining the benefit of all of these underwater springs. Because I know someone who lives in France, and she says that there's just endless amounts of underground water that is like super pure, that could just be, would solve, there shouldn't be any water processing factories. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because there's
Right.
just endless water underground that's like perfectly pure, and we should just be drinking that.
Right,
But of course we're not. We're regurgitating water through water plants, and then that's treated
right,
with chemicals, and it's
yeah,
part of the whole industrial, toxin
Right.
yeah
And even
administration.
even the filtration process of municipal water isn't enough to get out everything. And so there's stuff that just stays in that system and keeps accumulating even.
Right.
Pharmaceuticals and all kinds of stuff that, and on top of obviously the fluoride and the chlorine and the other toxins that are added to the water. It's just really bad. And so I distilled water years ago. I had a distiller, and I was distilling it on my own for a bit, and then you can see all this like thick layer of gunk at the bottom of the distiller. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is what everyone is drinking constantly.
yeah,
But you can't, since you can't see it in the clear water, people just think, oh, it's fine. It's just water.
Right.
No, you're drinking all that crap.
and you become the filter, right?
Right.
Right, right.
Your
So
body becomes the filter.
have you
Mhm.
ever put this, I mean, what's stopping somebody from putting this patch on a water bottle?
I had that chat with Lackey, who's the inventor, a long time ago, and I thought that was going to. I honestly thought it was going to be more popular than as a product than the stickers,
Yeah.
the harmonizing stickers. He seemed to think that it was possible, and then I said, okay, well, we need to do it like this, this, this. I got a bit too much in my brain, maybe, to tell him what I needed. And then he backed away from it, saying, I'm not sure if we can promise that we can get all water to that standard. And I understand where he's coming from, because it's like, we don't want to make any false promises. And there's all this water out there that's really not in a good way. How are we going to magically change its constitution across everything?
Right.
It's really difficult. And the water tests that I did were on filtered water, right? They were on, pure water. You can't do those types of tests on tap water, and see the structure change. It has to
Yeah.
be absolutely pure water, because then, you've got a clear starting block, or basis to start from. Um, it just ended up being something that was like, well, I was pushing him, saying, what can we promise? What can we, what tests can we do? Can we test the minerals in it? Can we test this, that, that? And I think he just got a bit, spooked by it all, and we never went with it. But
Yeah.
every now and again, I just put my phone next to the water, and just sort of charge it up. There's possible to do, it's but the other thing with water that's really important is to bless it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I always bless my water. I say, sort of, may this water be blessed by the divine energy that I am, and may
That's,
this be
Dr.
blessed.
Emoto, the
yeah.
studies he did, that was what he did. And then he would do what you did, take a picture of the water, and you could show the before and after, just him blessing and praying over the water.
So that quantum physicist that I stayed with in Arizona, 85-year-old man, worked 40 years in the shadow government helping reverse engineer UFOs. He's a quantum physicist and he develops his own water filtration system now, but it's very much along the lines of OMNIA. It's using geometry and what he calls reverse engineered technology, alien technology in these water filters. And he was talking about it kind of has the effect of a reverse osmosis, where I was like, yeah, but doesn't it take like everything out? And he's like, well, physically, but energetically, no. He said you talk to the water, and the shape itself is rebalancing and like giving the water everything it needs. So even if it's reverse osmosis and there's no actual minerals
Mhm.
measurable in the water, doesn't mean it still can't be energetically rebalanced or restructured with your thought or the intention of the shapes themselves. So it's true. Like there's really something to that. So even if you have a reverse osmosis system and you're adding like pink salt back to it for the minerals, you might have just as much success if you bless the water yourself and set your own intention.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you one other thing, which is really interesting, is do you remember I mentioned that 0 point at the center of the light ring?
Hmm.
That 0 point is the 0 point field. And the 0 point field is the internet of consciousness, right?
Right.
Right.
The internet of consciousness is how information is passed. Like I could send healing to you guys all the way over there in the USA, It's the means by which Reiki or, remote healing or whatever else works. It's effectively when I bless my water, right? I'm sending through my own conscious intent via the magnetic 0 point field the energy into the center of those water molecules to charge them up and to structure
Right.
them. And, you
It's,
know,
I mean,
so
Yeah.
you're talking about scalar energy, quantum entanglement now. I mean, because quantum entanglement, well, all you have to do is match the frequency of the resonance of something across the universe, and you
Mhm.
can communicate with it instantaneously. And the same thing on the planet. Like that's what scalar energy is. Actually,
Yeah.
when Ken Rolla looked at this patch, I had him look at it in at ECETI, and he's like, "Oh, that's scalar energy," and he
Mhm.
deals with that. And he kind of did a few things, and he seemed to think like this was it worked, you know, and it was good validation from him because he deals with this. But right away, he recognized this as what he called scalar energy, and
Mhm.
there is no distance. Distance becomes, you can take distance out of
Yeah.
the equation when it comes to scalar energy, which is essentially quantum entanglement.
there
Yeah.
you go.
So
Yep.
He
Quantum
called
intelligence.
it God consciousness energy, scalar energy is like that's what it is. And that's
yeah,
what ultimately is what's making up physical matter that we perceive as physical, is
right.
scalar energy.
Okay, so OMNIA radiation balancer.com, or is it, what's the actual
That's it.
website?
That
Okay,
is it.
and that link is below in the description, and it's also on our website, journeytotruth.online. So right now until Sunday, you can save 18% off all of the products or just the patches.
Everything that you got there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. 18% off all of the Omnia products, which is essentially the phone patch, the orb patch for the headphones, and the pendant.
Yep.
And that's a great deal. 18% off is a
Yeah.
great deal for the patches. So take advantage of that, guys. The promo code truth, all
Yes.
caps, and it'll get you 18% off until Sunday. And like I said, those links are below. And thank you so much, Tim. Is there any
Thank you
last
very much.
words you'd like to leave us with before we wrap this up?
No, not really. Just great to see you guys, and keep fighting the fight. And you know, you never know. We might reach a larger audience, both of us, by
Yeah.
this time next year. You know, might actually not be throttled. You know, because we're in the age of truth, right?
Right.
Where they're trying to hold the truth back, but it's fighting you know, it's coming back with a vengeance. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, if we could beat those algorithms, I mean that'll go a long way. Like shadow banning the word health is ridiculous, right? And
exactly. Yeah,
anything related to it. So if we can get over that hurdle, then we might be seeing major changes. So
Well,
here's
there's
to
a
that.
cleanup process
Yeah,
happening, and that, the big tech platforms have to be a part of that, as well as like the mainstream media and all these
right.
sources of information and things. In my opinion, they're going to be getting cleaned up along with everything else, along with what we just talked about. And I
Hmm.
think Trump and RFK and Elon and whoever else, they're playing their part, but ultimately we're the ones.
we're doing it. Yeah,
We're doing
Right.
it. It's
they're
us.
just you know the figureheads. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, great to
Oh,
see you guys.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Great
This has
to
Thanks
been great.
see you.
for the
Let me
opportunity. And
let me get to the page so I can actually end this live streaming. All right, guys. See you later. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, come hang out with us at our conference next May 12th through the 15th. Tickets are available. Take advantage of the early bird special, which ends on Black Friday. And the early bird ticket comes with a live stream pass and a t-shirt. You can save a considerable amount of money. Journeytotruth.online for all of that information. And until next time, have a great day, guys. We love you all. Thank you.
Good night, guys. Or day.